St. John's Gospel, chapter 9, a blind man cured, verses 1 to 41. As Jesus was passing by, he saw a man who had been blind from birth, and his disciples asked him, "Teacher, who sinned, this man or his parents, so that he was blind from birth?" "Neither this man sinned," said Jesus, "nor his parents, but rather that the power of God might be displayed in his life. We too must continue to display God's power while it's still day, for night's on its way, and then it'll be too late. So long as I'm in the world, I am the light of the world." After saying this, he spat on the ground and made mud with a spit, and smeared the mud on the man's eyes, and said to him, "Off you go, wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. So he went off and washed, and came back with his sight restored. Then his neighbours and those who were used to see him begging were saying, "Wait, isn't this the man who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "Yes, it's him." But others, "No, it just looks like him." The blind man kept saying, "It is me." But they kept pressing him, "Tell us, how were your eyes opened?" He said, "A man called Jesus made mud and smeared it on my eyes, and told me to go to Siloam and wash there. So I went, and after I'd washed, I received my sight." So they said to him, "Where is this man?" "I've no idea," he replied. So they brought the man who had been blind to the Pharisees. Now it was the Sabbath when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. The Pharisees again kept asking him how he received his sight. So he said, "He smeared mud on my eyes, and I washed, and now I see." Then some of the Pharisees were saying, "This individual isn't from God, or else he would keep the Sabbath." Others began to ask, "How can a sinful man perform such miraculous signs as these?" And a dispute broke out among them. They spoke to the blind man yet again. "What do you yourself say about this fellow? After all, it was your eyes he opened." He replied, "He must be a prophet." But the Jews did not believe that he had been blind and could now see until they fetched his parents. And they quizzed them, "Is this your son that you claim was blind from birth? So how is he able to see?" His parents replied, "We know it's our son and that he was blind from birth, but how he now sees or who opened his eyes, we don't know. Ask him yourself. He's an adult. He can speak for himself." His parents answered in this way because they were afraid of the Jews, who had already determined that if anyone acknowledged that Jesus was the Christ, they would be put out of the synagogue. This is why his parents said, "He's an adult. Ask him." So they summoned the blind man a second time and said to him, "Give God the glory. We know very well that this man is a sinner." He replied, "I've no idea if he's a sinner or not, but I know this much. I used to be blind, but now I see." They continued to question him. "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" So he answered them, "I've already told you, but you wouldn't listen. Do you want me to repeat myself? Do you want to become his disciples too?" Then they heaped abuse on him. "You're a follower of that man, but we're followers of Moses. We know that God has spoken to Moses, but we don't even know where this person comes from." The man responded, "How amazing! You don't even know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God doesn't listen to sinful people, but if anyone's God fearing and does whatever he asks him, he hears him. Not since time began has it been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a blind man from birth. If this man wasn't from God, he could do nothing." They replied, "You were a complete and utter sinner. Do you presume to lecture us?" So they threw him out of the synagogue. When Jesus heard that he had been thrown out of the synagogue, he found him and said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He replied, "Who is he, sir? Tell me so that I may believe in him." Jesus said to him, "You've already seen him. He's looking you in the eye." The man said, "I believe, Lord," and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. Jesus said, "I came into the world for judgment, so that those who cannot see may have their sight restored, and those who think that they see may be struck blind." Now some of the Pharisees who happened to be nearby and heard him said, "You're not suggesting we're blind, are you?" Jesus answered, "If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But since you say we can see, your sin remains." That's my reading of chapter 9 of St. John's Gospel from my translation from the original Greek. It's published by Matador. You can get it on Amazon or on Kindle. All profits are going to Christian charities.